practice in our classrooms and specifically through our syllabi. It is my privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Stephen Spates, one of our very own, to talk about the ways that we can enhance our syllabi. And so please give it up for Dr. Stephen Spates.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. It's great. I'm excited to see everyone here on a Wednesday, snowy kind of morning here after the semester has ended. So I have to say I am really thankful and grateful to see the department here in attendance on a day like today. So thank you all for waking up and attending during your break time to be here for this. It's an important topic. It's one that is timely, it's relevant, and will help us all in the future. So again, I'm just so grateful and excited to be here.
Dr. Spates, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for the recording, if nobody minds and you're far enough away, would you mind, could you take off your mask so it can be not so muffled? I don't know if anybody cares what we're doing, but I'm afraid for the recording it might not be clear.
Okay, can I get a thumbs? Any opposed?
You're staying away from us, so.
I will stay away. Is that better? Yes. Okay, all right. You're getting the unfiltered audio now. All right. So again, thank you all. I want to thank the Department of Communication, Dr. Ott, for helping me and putting this together and strategizing and making sure that we could be here safely and could do this. I want to thank as well the College of Arts and Letters, our Dean, Sean Wall, for his leadership as well in supporting and making this event happen. Really excited to have this coming from our leadership. It's really exciting. All right, let's get down into it. This is going to be informal. Most of you know me. You're comfortable with me. I'm comfortable with you as well. So this is interactive. So feel free. This is not a lecture. This is not a time where I'm just going to kind of squawk at you for 2 hours. Instead, we're just going to talk and have a conversation about things that we can do to better improve on some of the things that we're already doing in the classroom. But first, I want to kind of introduce you to me for those who don't know me, just in case you can kind of catch up and see a little bit more of who I am. Again, my name is Dr. Stephen Spates. My hometown, born in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm a Midwesterner. The cold, this is my time of year. Love it. But grew up on the west side in rural Southwest Michigan, in Berrien Springs, Michigan, for most of my life. That's where that's where my family resides now, Lakeside. And then also a last of 3 children. So most of my life I spent time in private school. My brother and sister went to public school, but I was the experiment and stayed in the private school system all the way from preschool through college. So that's kind of my experiences that I've had, but I started out in some majority situations where I was, as a student of color, everyone looked like me between preschool through the 2nd grade. And it wasn't until 3rd grade when we moved to rural Michigan that I was in a room and now the kind of minority. My first experience with that. So I had that experience all the way through 12th grade. And then I attended college, left for college, went to Alabama, Tennessee Valley area, North Alabama, to Oakwood University, private HBCU there, where I was back in the majority. Back around all of these people who looked like me in leadership positions and top positions from all over the world. And then continuing education and professional work back into traditionally white or predominantly white spaces through graduate school at Western Michigan University, University of Tennessee. And now here, of course, at Missouri State University. Also good to mention, I'm not a first generation college student. And through that, my parents both finished college, so I had a lot of help, a lot of support. I was the last of 3, so 2 of my siblings were already in college, so I got a lot of support, a lot of helps and tips that a lot of students in our population here may not necessarily have. So we're going to talk a little bit about these different things. But I wanted to introduce you to me because Dr. Allen, famous scholar in communication, anyone, Brenda J. Allen? Anyone familiar? Okay. She talks about being able to get to know someone before. When you walk into a room, the first thing you do is you assume. and you have these ideas about who that person is, where they're from, what's about them. But now that you know these things about me, maybe, if you haven't already, you can reframe who I am in the presentation of myself and also my identity. So we're going to look at some of these things that can help us do that for both students and ourselves. As I'm going through this presentation, I also want you to think about your own identity, the things that make you who you are, the pivotal moments, your background, that help people understand you as well. So let's get started. Have several goals here that we're trying to reach. We're going to look at the gaps in our syllabi as a collective group and look at places where we can improve. We're also going to talk about how we can reframe by using some specific strategies, several things that we can do to improve our classroom performance, and also increase our overall cultural competence as instructors and classroom leaders. So that's the goal of what we're going to do for today. Most importantly, I am not here to criticize or to tell you or to teach you how to teach. I'm a junior faculty member. I'm still learning. I am not here presenting myself as any experienced expert, know-it-all. What I want to do is just to talk about how these experiences and to put them on the table and address them so that we can collectively do better. So that is the purpose of why I have chosen to lead this workshop. I want to highlight some of the research. So you're going to look, each of you have packets. I hope everyone on your tables. Okay, a lot of the strategies that are being used did not come from my mind. They came from my own research, which is made up of these great people here. There's a lot more that I've been reading and looking through, but I wanted to highlight these individuals as the scholars who have helped create some of these strategies and who talk about in their own research how we can improve the classroom environment. One of the things that brought us here is that, of course, we're all familiar with the Black at Most State hashtag and having to address systematic and systemic racism in institutions, specifically being here at the university. So if you've had a chance to go through that hashtag or look at it, look at the comments or addressing it, you know that this is a timely topic right now at the university. This is something that we're all talking about. But it's difficult because a lot of those comments, if you get a chance to read them, students are saying that we haven't had a chance to really put things on the table, or that they've gone through courses that may have touched on it, may have grazed over it, but we didn't talk about it. And so a lot of missed opportunities have led us to these kind of clash moments. And that's because if you think about the topic, it's difficult. It's really tough. But sometimes we can get a little bit confident in who we are, being in the comm department, because we're talkers, because we're people who have conversations, that we're really good at it. And so we say, oh, well, that's not necessarily an issue here, but it could be. And so this is a moment for us to look through our own syllabi and to think about that. So speaking of communication, how many would consider yourself you're a competent communicator? All right, trying to say it, okay. Is anyone better at a speaker? You're a speaker. Really good at speaking. What about listeners? I love it. All right, good. For those listeners, I'd like you to take a look at the screen. Now, if I was to give you some directions and to tell you how to draw this image, but you had to draw it with your eyes closed, for the listeners, how many of you feel confident that you can do it? Okay, several still with their hands up, can do it. Get it, let's say about a minute's time. If we had a minute to do it, you could recreate this image. Why do you feel confident about that?
It seems simple.
It's simple. It's simple. That's what I was hoping to hear from, you know. Draw a circle. Inside that circle, draw a square, right? We're done. Now, maybe we'll get some variations on size and those things, but all in all, it's going to be the same images all around. Pretty easy, right? Now take a look at the image on the screen, and let's have that same minute. You have to close your eyes and take my direction and try to recreate this image. How many now feel that same confidence?
0% chance.
Exactly. This is the conversations that we have to have on these difficult topics. Trying to take what is complex, what is multi-layered, and we have what? One semester, just a few months, to try and squeeze in everything and address all the comments and all the history and all the context in space and time. And it's hard to do. And so sometimes, as instructors, we may skip out and say, well, let's spend the semester on these messages and on these topics, because I know I can nail it, right? And I feel better, the students feel good because I'm able to connect with them on these topics. But these are the ones that our student body are now asking us to please address, to please talk about. And it's not easy. So what we have to do is start coming up with strategies that are a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more able to do it over a long period of time, so that we're not necessarily trying to cram a complex picture or a complex message into one chapter or one assignment or one moment. So we're going to look at these strategies and how to get us here. So what's happening? We know we have this university-wide problem happening right now on campus. In our current comm courses, although students tend to be super satisfied, they're still also asking, they're saying, well, maybe we could have talked about this, or I would like us to talk more about this, or maybe we could have a class on that. And so this is our moment to kind of capitalize on that. Now, a lot of classes, there's an overt structure. If you take a course like Common Diversity in the Workplace, if you take Intercultural Comm, if you take Conflict, you start finding these difficult conversations as courses where you can try to cover them, try to go through them as best as you can. But other courses, if I'm teaching 315, Advanced Professional Speaking, I'm not sure if I have as many chances as some of these other direct courses, right? And so there may be some times where, even though we can make a few changes, the way we've connected on these messages has been a little bit covert. So the structure has been a little bit, well, we hope that the students got it, because it was kind of implied at the end of the chapter. Or we tried to connect it, but I assume that the students are smart, they get it. Fill in the blanks, right? Or I'm kind of uncomfortable, so we're going to move that chapter online. Or we'll put that chapter on Blackboard and we'll kind of brush through it and get back to the chapters that I'm a little bit more confident. That could be somewhere those gaps are forming. Now, I'm not saying that to say I'm a bad teacher. You may be thinking in your mind, but Dr. Spates, Stephen, what do you mean? I have good evaluations, I'm doing really great. I'm not a bad teacher. You're not. You're not. I'm so super proud of this department and to be here. But it doesn't mean that there are necessarily perfection across the board. There's still some areas that we can touch on and improve. So we're here for two reasons: for progress and results. So as a department, we can say, hey, you know what? We heard you, and now here's our response. Here's what we're doing about it. And not just listening, not just taking in the messages, but responding and showing our results. Teaching, most of us did not go through the College of Education, and so our teaching habits more than likely have been passed down through our experiences, and we picked up from others along the way of their teaching style, how we were mentored, what we picked up on, our favorite teachers, our favorite mentors, and we started doing things in the classroom just as they do it. When I look at my own teaching style, I can see trails of Western Michigan professors and trails of UT professors, because that's where my education comes from. And if you all look at your backgrounds, you're picking up certain things that you've liked or said, I'm going to do that same thing. And so our own teaching philosophies have developed based on our experiences. But again, those are not flawless, so there's still some gaps that exist. We're going to look at them. We're going to cover 5 things, and in your package you'll see them. We're going to look at student conversations, classroom discussion, grading techniques, assignments and learning techniques, literature and other resources, and finally, collegial collaboration. And so if you have your syllabi here, you have assignments here, what I want you to do is start to think about those. And as we talk about them, try to fill in those blanks. And so the goal isn't to scrap your course or to get rid of everything and start over. You're doing some really great work, but instead, take what you already have and turn it or perfect it by reframing it and turn it into a newer classroom. So let's look at goal number 1, student conversations. The goal for these conversations, or for the classroom, is to really develop and maintain an in-class discourse that invites a variety of perspectives and interpretations. In this case, this allows for both your informal and formal communication in the classroom to be set up in a way that creates a learning environment that tackles those difficult, complex conversations in a natural form. In other words, I don't necessarily have to worry anymore about students saying, well, I don't know about this topic. I don't want to talk about it in that class. It's uncomfortable. Or I'm not ready yet. And then collectively deciding to ignore it, to push it aside, to wait till next semester, but instead to tackle it. But we have a lot of things to do. So how we talk and interact with students is going to come into play, classroom interaction. And I want you to look as well as the strategies for classroom conduct. Structuring your course schedule, looking at the topics in the schedule. I got a chance to attend an NCA panel, and they talked about the idea that if you look at a lot of textbooks, the diversity chapter, the culture chapter, tends to be chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, towards the end, in other words. And it's right around that semester, right around that time of the semester, where that chapter ends up being the one that's online, or the alternative presentation, or right when we go on break and students check out, and then we come back and finish off with the other topics. And so what can we do? How can we change up that structure to put those things in? So thinking strategically about changing the order of your chapters. Yes, that's how it was created, but it doesn't have to stay that way. So there's several other things I want you to look at, but let's keep going. Number 2, when we look at the next goal for grading techniques, we're going to look at inclusive strategies. This time, looking and using our assessments in a way that measures learning in a variety of ways. So maybe considering things outside of testing, your traditional testing, looking at formats that work, and not necessarily to create more work for yourself, but to create a learning environment that allows for assessment to reach everyone's strengths. So now we're talking in terms of ability. One of the things that I like is making sure that our language that we're using is something that connects or is strategic for the classroom. And so you see that example there on the sheet where someone's given a test and they're talking about preparing manuscripts, and it says true or false, an individual may increase chances of mistakes on a perfunctory review of the manuscript. Versus true or false, an individual may increase chances of mistakes on a sloppy review of the manuscript. Are you testing to understand what that student knows about preparation, or are you testing them on your ability to use the word perfunctory correctly? What's the goal? Where do we want to go with this? And so that, along with other strategies, can help us with our grading techniques so that we're grading fairly and that we're also assessing learning among everyone's ability. If we look at the next goal, also assignments in the classroom, and overall learning. We want to naturally incorporate cultural competence into the structure of your course. A lot of things don't tend to work, and this is coming from Orcom research, when they're forced. When you force it, it feels that way, and students pick up on it, and so it comes off as in a we don't really have to care or put passion into it. So there's a huge difference from saying, well, now that everybody complained on Twitter, now we have to talk about race, so let's do this assignment, and huge difference from naturally building it into your course and saying, hey, today's topic is going to be difficult. Some of you may have different feelings, but I want us to tackle it together. Here are the boundaries that we're going to set for today. Here are the things that we want to structure it. I know some of you may be nervous for this discussion. I am too. I've said that several times in 5, 12, 6, 17. Students sometimes I get emails before the class and they say, I'm nervous about that class. And I said, I am too. See you at 5:30. Because we have to do it together, right? That's the only way that we're learning. We're here to learn, not to ignore, not to push off. So we got to attack those ways. Next goal. We want to present a variety of resources and supplementary materials to support equal finality. In other words, a lot of different ways to meet the same goal. We can get there through different roads. And so that means that we have to do things like seek out these resources, articles, and research that speak to these topics. Don't feel like you have to take it all on your own or depend on your own expertise. There's a lot of great research out there. By putting together this workshop, I was able to find a lot of those resources. And the good news is everybody's a winner today because I'm going to send you that list so that everyone has a copy. You can have a base to go off of. But what's important to note is that some of this research may fall outside of your own preferences. So if you're in the qual or the quant camp, that means you're going to have to start reading some pieces or looking at research that's done in critical area, in the performance area, the rhetorical area. Because a lot of these topics are rich in those areas, and they really do help and complement the work that some of us do as well. So we want to get familiar with the names, the researchers, and the pieces done in order for students. And students tend to appreciate that style because some of the students really get interested in research, really get turned on to the idea of grad school when they read a piece that connects with them. When they see somebody thinking and researching in the way that they would like to. Okay? So it's important to start seeking out and finding those resources. And then finally, last but certainly not least, collegial collaboration. We want to start being able to capitalize on the body of knowledge and expertise among the department and the university. In other words, this will give us the chance to use the pool of knowledge that we already have. I still have students who email me from when Nora came to Common Diversity in the Workplace, when Carissa came into Common Diversity in the Workplace. Being able to speak with each other and use each other in a way that's collaboratory not only shows students that we're a unified department, but also shows the diversity of things that are taking place and all the different strengths. Everyone has their chance to shine. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should increase their number of guest lectures, because I know we have a busy semester, right? And so there's not just that, but borrowing and saying, hey, do you know research in this area? Can you help me out with this? I need a piece for this in my class, just so that we don't have to take on the burden of ourselves, but share it with, among others. Most of us are happy to help each other out. And then finally, looking to our greater community, Springfield community, in order to make some external collaborations. Everyone is not knowledgeable about these topics or know someone, so I put some links in there, and if you click on the link, I'll send you the electronic version, it's hyperlinked. It'll lead you to advisory boards, executive boards for a lot of these organizations. Several members from Missouri State sit on those boards, and they work here, they're professors. And so by collaborating with them, you can have not necessarily them themselves put all the work on them, but you can use them as a resource to find other resources, bring them into your classrooms, or be able to connect with others who can help and strengthen it. Again, not putting all the work or the burden on yourselves. What I want to do now is first I want to stop. And then we're going to go into putting these things together right now. Most of you have your laptops open and ready. But again, I'm not necessarily going to lecture or put it. I want to start brainstorming now. I want to start putting those things together now to get ready for the spring 21 semester and allow us to be able to collaborate as we get ready to go. Are there questions, comments, things that you want to know about before we get started? Okay, great. Finally, as you get going, I just want you to, again, see that big picture. You have a lot of great ideas. I know you have them out there. I'm going to be kind of interacting with everyone, having a chance to talk about your courses, but I want us to do the best that we can. So spring 21 becomes the semester that we do better, and students say, hey, keep going to Craig. That's the place. They responded. They did it. Let's work. Yes.
So, usually, around,
Mm-hmm.